always prided myself on being cautious, on locking doors and windows without fail, ensuring every corner of my small apartment in the heart of the city was secure. But that night shattered the illusion of safety I had meticulously built. It was a typical evening, the city's hum of life drifting through the air. I was engrossed in a book, cocooned in the comfort of my living room, when a faint sound pierced the stillness. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, a soft click that raised the hairs on my neck. I glanced around, dismissing it as my imagination ran wild in the silence. But then it came again, a distinct noise that sent a chill down my spine. Someone was trying to pick the lock of my front door. Panic surged within me as I realized the gravity of the situation. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage as I tiptoed towards the door, my breath caught in my throat. My mind raced with possibilities. Should I call the police, confront the intruder, or hide and hope they'd leave? A shiver ran down my spine as the lock clicked, the door slowly creaking open. A figure loomed in the doorway, obscured by the darkness of the hallway beyond. Fear seized me, rendering me immobile as the intruder stepped into my sanctuary. I stood frozen, hidden in the shadows, my heart thundering in my ears. The intruder moved with an unsettling quiet, their steps calculated and deliberate. My mind screamed for action, but my body refused to obey, tethered by fear's icy grip. They prowled through my home, a menacing presence weaving through the familiar spaces that had once felt so safe. The clink of objects being shifted and the rustle of papers being rifled through echoed in the confined space. I clutched my phone tightly, ready to call for help, but the thought of alerting the intruder paralyzed me with dread. The minutes I stretched into an agonizing eternity, each second dripping with the palpable weight of terror. And then, a creak from the floorboards betrayed my presence. Time stood still as the intruder froze, sensing something amiss. Panic surged through me as their gaze swept across the room, searching, probing the darkness where I hid. I held my breath, willing myself to be invisible, my heart hammering against my chest. But fate had other plans. The intruder's gaze locked onto mine, eyes glinting in the faint light filtering through the window. A jolt of primal fear shot through me as they advanced, their movements predatory and deliberate. I scrambled backward, my mind a whirlwind of terror and desperation. At that moment, the line between fight and flight blurred into a haze of survival instinct. With trembling hands, I dialed emergency services, praying for salvation. The sound of the operator's voice offered a fleeting sense of relief amidst the chaos. Help was on the way, but every passing second felt like an eternity in the face of imminent danger. The intruder closed in, their features contorted in a menacing mask. I braced myself for the inevitable, every fiber of my being screaming for escape. And then, the sudden wail of sirens pierced the night. The intruder hesitated, a fleeting moment of indecision flickering across their face before they bolted towards the exit. Relief flooded me as the sound of approaching footsteps signaled the arrival of the police. The minutes that followed were a blur of questions, statements, and a sense of disbelief at the close encounter with danger. The police combed through the apartment, their thoroughness a reassuring presence amidst the remnants of chaos left behind. As dawn broke, casting a tentative light on the aftermath of the night's horror, a sense of vulnerability lingered. The shattered illusion of safety hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder that darkness can breach even the most fortified walls of security. In the wake of that harrowing night, I fortified my defenses, adding layers of security to my sanctuary. Yet, the memory lingered, an indelible mark etched in the corridors of my mind, a reminder that sometimes terror can lurk just beyond the threshold of familiarity. I had always found solace in the serene, quiet town of Louisiana. Its streets echoed stories of tranquility, painting pictures of safety and comfort. But that night, everything changed. It was a night etched with terror, one that became the haunting echo in the corridors of my memory. I was 29, living alone in a cozy house nestled in the heart of the town. The clock had just struck midnight when an urgent knock shattered the tranquil silence. Unwarranted unease crept up my spine as I approached the door, the dim porch light casting elongated shadows on the wooden floor. A stranger stood on my doorstep, a haunting urgency etched on his face. He pleaded for help, claiming he needed to charge his phone to fulfill an important delivery. His words came in a frantic jumble, laced with desperation that set off alarms in my mind. "Please, ma'am," he implored, his eyes wide with a sense of urgency that sent shivers down my spine. "I'll lose my job if I don't get this delivery done. Just a few minutes, I promise." My heart raced, a primal instinct warning me of the danger lurking behind his facade of desperation. I hesitated, my hand trembling as I reached for the door to close it. "I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Please leave or I'll have to call the police." His insistence grated against my nerves, his pleas growing more desperate with each passing moment. Fear gripped me, amplifying the racing of my heart as I pushed the door shut, the click of the lock echoing in the silent night. Relief flooded over me as I turned away, but it was a fleeting moment. The calm shattered when I ascended the stairs, a strange smell invading my senses. Panic clawed at my throat as I realized someone was in my house. My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob, the bathroom light casting an eerie glow in the hallway. And then, darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up in a haze, disoriented and terrified. The faint scent of chloroform lingered in the air as my eyes struggled to adjust to the dim surroundings. Panic surged within me as I realized I was confined, my limbs restrained within the confines of a suitcase. A muffled scream tore through my lips, echoing off the cramped walls of my prison. But the walls seemed to absorb my cries, the silence of my captivity suffocating. Minutes I felt as though I was stretching into infinity, my thoughts spinning into a pit of despair and terror. My last vestige of hope was dashed when I realized that nobody was listening to me and that I was completely alone in my suffering. It was then, in the depths of my despair, that fate took an unexpected turn. A distant sound of scuffling and hurried footsteps filtered through the silence. My heart thundered in my chest as the suitcase jolted and then the latch clicked open. Relief flooded me as light spilled into my confined space, a face I vaguely remembered from earlier peering down at me with concern and determination. It was the man who had pleaded for help, the same man I had turned away. "Are you okay?" His voice trembled with urgency as he helped me out of the suitcase. "I saw him leaving your house. I followed him. I had to make sure you were safe." Gratitude washed over me, tears streaming down my cheeks as I clung to my rescuer. His bravery, his determination to help a stranger, ignited a warmth within me that eclipsed the horrors of the night. Months passed, weaving a tale of healing and a newfound connection between us. His name was Adam, a kind-hearted soul whose bravery had brought us together. Our bond deepened, transcending the nightmarish ordeal that had initially brought us into each other's lives. In the safety of our shared home, I found solace once more. But the shadows of that terrifying night lingered, a reminder of the thin veil between safety and unfathomable darkness. Yet, in Adam's embrace, I found the strength to face the lingering fears, knowing that sometimes from the darkest of nights, unexpected lights of hope and love can emerge. I'd always found comfort in my small, cozy apartment tucked away in the heart of the bustling city. But that sense of security was shattered one fateful night that still sends shivers down my spine. It was a typical evening, the soft glow of city lights seeping through the windows as I settled into my routine after a long day's work. The tranquility was abruptly shattered by a persistent knock at my door, a sound that sliced through the peaceful ambiance. I approached cautiously, peering through the peephole to find a man standing on the threshold, a stranger, his face obscured by the darkness of the hallway. His voice, tinged with urgency, filtered through the door as he pleaded for help. "Please, I need your help. My car broke down. And I don't have a phone. Can I use yours to call for assistance?" His words held a sense of desperation that tugged at my empathy, but an instinctive unease settled within me. "I'm sorry. I can't help you," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "I'll call for help for you, but I can't let you in." His insistence grew, each plea more fervent than the last. My heart raced as I debated whether to call emergency services or try to reason with him further. But before I could decide, the man's demeanor shifted, a subtle aggression creeping into his tone. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped back from the door, panic surging through me. I hurried to lock the door, my hands trembling as I fumbled for my phone, ready to dial for help. As I punched in the numbers, a crash echoed from the direction of the balcony, a sound that sent terror coursing through my veins. I froze, the realization sinking in that the stranger had found another way in. With bated breath, I darted toward the bedroom, my heart pounding against my chest. The city's familiar sounds became distant echoes as adrenaline fueled my escape, urging me to seek refuge in the cramped space of the closet. The seconds stretched into agonizing minutes, each breath stifled as I strained to hear any movement within the apartment. The shuffling of feet and the rustling of objects confirmed my worst fears. The intruder was searching for the rooms. Fear gripped me, a silent prayer for safety echoing in my mind. My phone clutched tightly in hand. I debated whether to call for help again, fearing the sound would betray my hiding spot. Footsteps approached the bedroom, each sound magnified in the silence. My heart threatened to leap out of my chest as the closet door creaked open, revealing the intruder's silhouette against the dim light. A gasp escaped my lips, terror rendering me speechless as our eyes met in the darkness. The intruder's gaze held a chilling intensity, freezing me in place, a helpless prey cornered by an unknown predator. And then, a sudden commotion erupted outside, the sound of approaching sirens and hurried footsteps. The intruder hesitated, a fleeting moment of indecision clouding their features before they fled in haste, leaving behind a trail of fear and uncertainty. The arrival of law enforcement brought a flood of relief. Their swift actions secured the apartment and ensured my safety. But the haunting memory of that night lingered, a stark reminder of vulnerability.